Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Law of Attraction Roundtable. I'm your host, Gary Temple Bodley. Today with me is my good friend and fellow spiritual leader and teacher, Mark Shihadeh. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Okay, so we just got on this call together, and I said, let's not even talk. Let's just go into it.
We're getting into it.
Fun. But I did ask you to prepare 2 hours in advance for this. So did you do your preparations?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, you did some studying and
meditate. I meditated for an hour. Wait, it was an hour, right? Meditate for an hour.
For an hour, just so you're in line with source consciousness.
Yeah.
Yep. Good.
And then stand on my head and do yoga for what was it again?
2 hours for that.
2 hours for yoga. Yeah.
2 hours for yoga.
So 3 hours total preparation.
Well, you're looking fit. And do you have the quote of the day?
Hold on, let me get it.
All right. This is funny because normally when you and I are on a podcast, we do it for like 7 or 8 hours straight. And then we edit it down to like an hour just to get the best out of it. So if you're listening to this at home, anything that seems like a mistake isn't. This is actually what we intended.
Yeah, this is off the cuff. We're not going to edit this one down.
No, we are. This will be 7 or 8 hours too.
Oh, we're going to do that
edited down to the best 5 minutes.
So this is like in total, it's like a 10-hour thing.
10-hour day with all the preparation.
Yeah, total.
Yeah. Good.
But hey,
no, just kidding. So we're just kidding. So anyway, this is just a fun conversation between two friends who are preeminent spiritual leaders and teachers, the leaders of our fields. We're leading the mass consciousness from fear to love. It's a lot of burden on our shoulders here, but
I think I have to tap on calling myself a spiritual leader. I'm not.
You're a spiritual leader and teacher, and so is everyone who's listening to this.
I know, but
nobody knows it.
Nobody knows it.
I don't even know it, right?
Right.
I'm exploring who I am as a spiritual leader and teacher. I didn't even realize that until this year. Yeah.
Well, I like the idea that you can do it. I mean, I think it's a good place to be where you can do it and feel okay with it. I don't think I'm there yet. I guess it's just a name, right? Just saying it.
Does Deepak Chopra, is he okay with it?
I don't know. Does he call himself that?
Well, I don't know, but other people would. But that's the thing is, what does the name really mean? Are we supposed to take it seriously? Aren't we all spiritual leaders and teachers? Aren't we teaching by our example of alignment? Aren't we light workers in the sense that we're being an example of fun people who are interested in the laws of the universe, who are doing what we do, and the side effect of doing what we love to do is that maybe someone's getting some benefit from it. Maybe it's turning on the light inside of other people. That's what light workers do, is they turn the light on, not by them needing our help in anything, but just showing what's possible.
Yeah.
And so ever since I stepped into this role of being a spiritual leader and teacher, everything starts happening. Like all these amazing things are happening. All these people are now coming into this community. The podcasts are going crazy. The boot camp is going wild. And there's all these people from all over the world who are interacting with each other. People are taking trips to Europe and hanging out with friends that they met, through Joshua. It's just so cool. We're going to Europe. We're doing we had a big retreat here. It was amazing. Yeah. So it's like all this fun stuff. And what it is me getting to wake up in the morning and go, I get to be Gary Temple Bodley. This is the most exciting person on the planet. And I get to be that person. And each of us can do the exact same thing. And in the past, all I was doing was resisting who I was, thinking that I had to prove myself by being a good person or being in business or making money or whatever it was.
Yeah. I definitely have resistance to that. I mean, so what comes to mind, the first one is it sounds arrogant when I say it. Like if I said it, and so that means that's my resistance, caring what people think.
Yeah. Who does it sound arrogant to? It sounds obvious to me and probably to a lot of people who follow you.
Spiritually. I don't know if I resonate with that title.
Well,
for me.
Also, words have different meanings to different people, right?
Right. But I agree with everything you said. And then there's also maybe a resistance of the responsibility with it, right?
Well, that's my responsibility is just to conduct my exploration. I have no other responsibility. people show up.
Perceived responsibility. It's perceived responsibility.
Yeah. People show up so that I get to practice being the spiritual leader and teacher, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not like any other, I'm not like the Dalai Lama. I'm not like anyone else. I'm like living this normal life as a normal guy who sifted and sorted through the traditional ideals of Western society, figured out it doesn't work and it's not satisfying or fulfilling, and then was led to this step by step just because I followed inspiration and I allowed myself to step into this role. And I processed my limiting beliefs all along the way. I didn't tell my brother that I was a channel until 4 years into it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't post anything on my private Facebook page until this year about Joshua. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I have been stepping more into like leadership role with the trainings I've been going to and all that. And so I'm working on that. I'm currently working on that and coming into it and feeling more comfortable. You know, I wore like a blazer and that was like, you know, but what I did was I shopped and I got stuff that I was comfortable with, but still the first time I wore it, I just felt like, who am I? Like, there's just a thing where you have to step into and be comfortable with a certain role. And I think I'm moving into that more and more and more.
Everyone says, who am I to do whatever they're inspired to do? Everyone says it. Everyone has doubts. And the doubts are of no benefit, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, on the flip side of it, you could be delusional, like certain presidents we know, you know, and think that you're the hottest thing on the world. So there's no self-reflective activity. But, you know, we're doing that enough. We don't have to worry about being self-reflective. We are overly self-reflective. Hold on, please. I have a dog at the door. Here he comes. Hi, Tucker. How are you? Tucker, everyone wants to see you.
I saw Tucker at the dog park video. That was yesterday.
By the way, your blazer, is that the profile picture of you now on Facebook with speaking? It's an awesome picture. Yeah, you look good in a blazer. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. You know, I'll tell you the story. It was pretty interesting because I've always had this thing where, okay, if I want to wear a blazer, like Robert Smith from FasterEFT was saying, Mark, come on, you're kind of helping me out here. You want to try on one of my blazers? And I said to him, if I want a blazer, like I want it to fit right, and I kind of want it to be cut. I have this idea of how it's going to look, and I don't want it to look stuffy and formal, all that. So I go shopping with Kelly. I go into, I think it was Banana Republic. This blazer, it was kind of a bluish blazer. It fit me perfect. Right, it's like the best fit of a blazer that I've ever had. So things were just flowing. And then I found these kind of flowery shirts. Oh, perfect. Okay, it's not too formal. And so just the way it happened and came together for me, it was like, this is awesome. This is just coming together perfectly. So I'm flowing with it, but I'm still looking at it, like looking at becoming more and more into this role that we're talking about here.
You never wore a suit and tie at work in old jobs?
I mean, I have, I never have. And I also have ideas about that. Like it's stuffy, formal, and I had to work on that.
I do too. I mean, I don't wear blazers or ties. I'll never wear a tie again.
Yeah.
I have ties, but I had ties that were very expensive back in the old days, and used to wear blazers all the time. I used to have my own tuxedo. And I'm never doing that. I'm only wearing like what I have on now, which is nice. It's a long sleeve, polo top. Yeah. And you can wear it here in North Carolina because it's 50 degrees. It's beautiful. You couldn't wear it in Florida.
Dress. You have great taste, I think, in clothes.
And in friends.
In friends. Especially friends.
Yeah.
But it felt good. It felt good to at first you don't feel comfortable with it. And then you kind of step into it. And then it just felt good to be able to move up that step into, okay, I can wear this. I can be comfortable with it and own it.
Well, that's true of everything that you try on and you're not used to, right? You got to become a vibrational match to it, and you got to give up your resistance to it. Yeah. And once you did, the universe came through Robert to give you this idea. You had some resistance to it, but you pushed past whatever the fear was,
Yeah.
You became a vibrational match to it. Everything went easily. And then wasn't it great? Now it's your profile picture and everyone loves
That's
you.
great.
Yeah.
And, you know, also speaking up there, speaking at these trainings, speaking more and more in public. And you remember when I first started doing the podcast with you, that was really uncomfortable for me too. So,
well, here's the guy who calls me and says, I want to be on this podcast.
yeah, I know, right? I was pushing past my fear about it.
Yeah, you pushed past your fear. You were inspired to do it, and you pushed past your fear.
I thought you guys were the coolest podcast ever. I just loved you guys. I want to be a part of this somehow.
That's how
man,
Michael came in too. Michael did the same thing. Yeah.
Remember, when I came to that first cruise, I didn't know you guys. I was the lone dude, like meeting you guys for the first time. And that's how much I liked you guys, you know?
Well, that's pretty much everyone's story. Everyone comes mostly they come by themselves. A couple of people come with friends, you know, and then they get to meet this whole community of people, and it's so much fun. I mean, are those things any more fun? Can you even imagine? We had the October event here about a month ago, and it was just amazing. People from Sweden and Netherlands and all over America. You know, people flew here from Europe and California and drove here from wherever, and everyone got together and everyone just loved each other. It was so cool.
How was it? Like, were you able to just, because you're hosting and it's a lot of responsibility for you guys, were you able to just enjoy it to the max? Did you have any, you know, manifestational events?
We had one. We hired a driver. It was actually
I heard the story.
Yeah, Tracy's daughter's boyfriend.
Right.
And Tracy's daughter had gone back home. So Dylan had done a lot of work around the house getting us ready. He's an awesome guy. And so he was going to be the driver. So his first day, he goes to the airport and picks people up and shuttles them back and forth in the Escalade. And then he ends up hanging out with us. And it's, you know, first night's pizza night. So I'm making all these different pizzas for everyone. And we have pizzas and wings and salads and, you know, finger food and stuff. And everyone's getting to know each other. And it's fun. And there's tons of wine going on, you know, so everyone's having a good time. So he's hanging out with everyone else. And he's young, early 20s. And then he brings in a gigantic bong, starts smoking pot, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, this is our driver? And so I said, so Tracy had to say, oh, the insurance said that you couldn't drive in the van, right? So then I had to do all the driving in the van, which is fine. It worked out great.
Yeah.
And and we were planning to go to wineries every day, but people had so much fun just hanging out here at the house because this house is as nice as any winery we're going to. Right. And we built this old window greenhouse.
I watch a lot of the Facebook lives. So I was able to look at a lot of it.
Yeah. So we had dinner. There's 25 people in dinner there. And we also use that as the workshop room in the mornings to do Joshua Live and meditations. We had a guy come and play, phenomenal singer, guitarist, come on Saturday night and play. It was just great. We had so much fun. And I cooked everything.
Oh, man.
And that, you know, and that it was sort of off the cuff. Like, it started Thursday. And so like Wednesday, I went to Sam's Club and got all this food and just got a bunch of everything and then just put it together on the fly. And so it all worked out great. But next time I will definitely have an assistant, you know, and I'll also have a lot of stuff prepared ahead that we'll just throw in the oven. But everything was made from scratch, you know. It was fun. So everything worked out great. We're having another one in April.
So other than him bringing that bong, you're just able to like enjoy it and no pressure and no stress and any of that.
That's just how I do things now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, why stress? Because stress is the perception that something wrong could happen.
Yeah.
But if you don't believe that there is such a thing as wrong,
right,
then if you're not focusing on this thing that's wrong that could possibly happen,
that's right,
everything works out.
Yeah.
And so you know, I think the first night my friend Chris is here. He went to the boot camp in the first group or the second group, and he lives around here, and so he was over, and Daniel was one of the attendees. And Daniel's walking from the backyard up to the house. There's stairs going up to the house. And he slipped and conked his head on the sidewalk, right?
Uh-oh.
And just gushing blood everywhere. And I just was there, and Chris was there, and we took care of him. And he had a little, cut in his head, and he had a good story to tell.
Yeah.
But still no big deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well,
in that group, no one's freaking out.
Yeah.
Even him, he's not embarrassed. Maybe a little bit embarrassed in the beginning, but it's just so loving and supportive.
Right.
Anything that would go wrong in that group of people, they would know it's simply their manifestation event.
So, right. So the idea that it's not what happened, but it's what your reaction to what happened and the meaning you put on it. And so it happened, and you guys, he probably felt so relaxed to be around you guys because you guys aren't, making a big deal of freaking out. Yeah. Well, I've been seeing myself in these trainings, the more I go, and I've been assisting, and I've been doing sessions, dealing with that idea of perceived stress. And it's going to, because everyone wants to talk to you, and you're in this training all day, and then you're doing sessions after. And I've been working on it. And each time I do it, I get better at it and more comfortable. My goal is to have fun. I have this thing called Easy Light Fun, which is ELF. And it reminds me of the movie ELF, which is one of my favorite movies. And it's just kind of like my mantra, easy, light, fun is what I want, And so my goal is to do that in any situation I'm in, anywhere I'm into. So I'm just stretching myself that way.
And that's totally aligned with who you truly are.
Yeah.
You and I are fun guys, and we laugh all the time, and we're silly as hell.
Right.
How many other guys our age are like that? Everyone's so serious, right?
This is true.
Easy, light, fun.
Isn't that
I'm
awesome?
making everything easy, light, fun. It's all up to me to do it,
Yeah.
And when I make things easy, light, and fun, everyone else has fun too.
Totally. I mean, life is too short, man.
Yeah. Well, you asked me to when I'm cooking, and do I get, upset if it's not good, or excited if it is good, if people like it or don't like it, right? So you're cooking for a group of people. They're always going to like it. They're never going to tell you they don't like it, right? So that's placing how you feel on this outcome. And the outcome will be whatever it is. So you don't have to get attached to it. Now, if I thought, oh, they're going to like me more if I'm a better cook, then I would stress out about everything.
Right.
If I think it is what it is, and they're either going to like it or not like it, and I'm not in control of their perception of it, and it doesn't mean anything about me anyway. If they love it, it doesn't mean I'm a good guy. And if they hate it, it doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. I'm not attached to that. I used to be absolutely attached 100% to what people thought of my cooking, because I, envisioned or fashioned myself as this good cook. And so I would just freak out all the time. Yeah. And now I just don't care. I have so much fun.
Yeah.
That's
a great way to put it, because that's the same thing with anything, like, me speaking in public, or me speaking at these trainings more and more. And the more I do it and just be silly and just be myself and have jokes, the more I can, and I guess what it is not giving a shit what anyone thinks, and having fun.
On the Law of Attraction cruise, the last day of it, David and I were going to do our sessions, right? The night before, I wrote a PowerPoint presentation. Right. And we get there, remember? Yeah. And there's no lights on the stage.
Yeah.
And there's no screen. There's no projector. There's not even a microphone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, me and David were like, all right, whatever. And so I just put the laptop up, and I just hit the buttons, and I just gave my presentation. And at the end of it, I go, man, that was so much better than I thought it was going to be. Or, man, that was pretty good. Remember? It was.
I got to say, I was in awe of you guys. Yeah. I mean, you're a really, really good speaker and so comfortable. And I was so impressed.
Why I'm comfortable is because I do not care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're a public speaker for a professional, right?
Yeah.
You say, if it's not good, people aren't going to want to come see me again. And that might affect my income.
Right.
So you have all this attachment to all that stuff. And what you're doing is you're bringing fear into them.
Right.
And you're not connecting with anyone because you have an agenda. The agenda is to be this polished speaker.
Right.
My agenda is just to have fun. And so I'm naturally connecting with everyone else who wants to have fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, like as I was working on it, like I've tapped on it, and you know, what you do is I write down the list of things, the resistance, like I'm going to forget my place. I have these beliefs, limiting beliefs, like I'm not a great speaker. I'm not great off the cuff. I'm going to be pausing. I'm going to lose my place. I'm going to be nervous. They're going to know I'm nervous. There's a lot of shit that we do to ourselves.
But all that stuff is conditioned on an outcome you think you want, right? So if you just drop that outcome altogether and say, it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean anything, right? Then you can't get nervous if you can drop the attachment to the outcome.
Yeah.
And if you were to say, however it goes will be the best way it can go. And I'm going to do whatever I can to maintain my alignment. That's the only important thing.
Yeah.
And in living easy, light, fun, I have the best chances of maintaining that alignment. And in that alignment, I'm going to receive inspiration to be funny and to remember everything. You only forget things when you're in fear. In alignment, you have access to the source consciousness where all the information you need is contained.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have a lot of appreciation for Robert, because what he would do is he makes everybody on, you know, it's a week training, and on Friday, he makes everyone go up and do something, do a spiel, do something. And I guess maybe 3 months ago was maybe the first time that I actually enjoyed getting up there and speaking. And I told him, and I tell the people, when I'm speaking, I explain it too, is that I'm enjoying this for the first time, and it feels good to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Before I was just kind of very self-conscious, kind of nervous and getting through it type of thing. And I'm more introverted, you know, and so.
Yeah, right. I don't believe that.
Really?
Not at all.
Oh, yeah. I have a total.
You're a super introvert who goes on a cruise by himself, who doesn't know anyone. That's the dictionary that's the example of what an introvert is. No, you are an extrovert. You have tons of friends. You speak in public for a living. You're a life coach. You have a podcast. You do all these things, right?
Yeah.
You are not an introvert. You're an extrovert.
I have been more extroverted as I do this work. Right. Absolutely.
Your natural state is an extrovert. Your fear-based state is an introvert.
Yeah,
because you have fear of what you'll feel if you receive negative feedback.
That's
that
right.
Emotion, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you know that the emotion is simply your limited perspective of what's happening compared to your inner self's perspective of what's happening, then it's nothing more than guidance. And so you don't have to be worried about negative emotion.
Yeah, I like that. Have you heard the definition, like an introvert, how an introvert re-energizes is to be alone, and how an extrovert re-energizes re-energizes or rejuvenates is to be around other people?
Well, so what is the energy that's coming from? It's always coming from your connection to your inner self.
Right.
And so introverts feel fear when they're with people. And so when they're alone, that fear is gone. And so they're connected to their source energy.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And extroverts feel fear when they're alone.
Oh, interesting.
Right? And so they feel natural connection to source energy when they're with people.
I never heard it put that way. That's really, really good.
Yeah. So everyone's natural state is to be in alignment, right?
Right.
Instead of hiding out against what they're afraid of.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're not processing your limiting beliefs, you're going to feel fear anytime you push outside your comfort zone, and you're going to want to withdraw. You know.
Yes.
And don't you notice as people get older, they become more extroverted?
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
No, they are more sensitive to negative emotion, and they withdraw and live smaller lives.
Oh, you said they become more introverted?
Introverted, right?
Oh,
yeah. Did I screw that up? Sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Let me see. Have I noticed that? It depends, I think.
Yeah. So my dad and mom were this brave young couple who moved from South Africa to Vancouver.
Oh, yeah.
They had parties, they had friends, and everything. Both ended up living alone.
Right. Yeah.
Now both, in their apartments, not doing anything,
Yeah.
and not having friends, not having romantic relationships, not because they were so in fear, their limiting beliefs got stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah, life can beat up on people, and they lose their zest, their youthful zest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been my goal, is to try to keep that as much as we can. And look at kids. I always learn from kids.
Sure. That's
And
how we naturally are, right?
Right.
Curious, fun, laughing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good conversation to have this, because I think this thing about being a spiritual leader, or to be authentic, is to be our bigger selves. And so for people listening, it's super important to move towards being our bigger self, our authentic self.
Yes. Everyone is moving, in generality, from fear to love over lifetimes. And
Mm-hmm.
so we want to move as much into love from fear as we can in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just realizing that who you are is good enough. You don't have to be better to do anything you want to do. You can create whatever you want. You are that, worthy, magnificent, limitless being now who just doesn't think so. So you are the spiritual leader and teacher now, and you're exploring that, and you may never label yourself that because you like another label, but you're becoming more authentic. And how you're doing that is by pushing past all these different fears that would have held you back in the past.
That's right. Yeah.
And then your life's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's more satisfying, more enjoyable, more abundant, more free. But it's not free from fear. More fear comes up because as you move to these other levels, you have to look at deeper held limiting beliefs to become who you authentically are. So it's always this process of going to one stage of expansion, and then seeing a whole new group of limiting beliefs right there, and then putting that into context, realizing they're all false, and then doing whatever you're inspired to do.
I like that. Have you heard of Abraham's steps? Right. So Abraham's step is step one is to ask, and that just happens naturally. Step two is the universe provides. Right. Step three is to allow and feel good and allow. Then she added a step four. Step four is the mastery of step three. Right. Just be good at allowing. Right. And just work that and master it. Now she also added a step five the last few years, and step five is being okay when you're back in step one. Yeah. Which means looking at the manifestation events that happen to us and not freaking out. Right. And I really feel that I'm there, like in step five, because like, let's say again, like these trainings provide lots of ways for me to grow and look at my limiting beliefs and look at some of these things. And when things come up, like I've had like relationships, things with certain people getting triggered, and it can be challenging. But what I would do is I would see that, and I would say opportunity to go home and tap on it, change a memory, change I'm acting like my dad, or I'm being triggered because she's reminding me of my mom, or things like that. And so I go and I work on it, and I almost get excited about it, but I don't let the step one or the manifestation event, I don't freak out with it. And then life becomes magical because you're not spiraling down. You're not spending a lot of time spiraling down. Yes. And you're looking at the event from an objective position. Yeah. I'm the creator of my reality. Right. And so this event had to happen for me to look at something. Exactly. And so I'm not saying that person's wrong or I'm wrong. I'm just saying that I had a perspective that's limiting. Why did I choose a limited perspective? And what if I chose a higher perspective on this thing? Yeah. I say this to people all the time. It's like, something bad happened today. It's unlikely you'll remember it in a month, and in a year you'll never remember it. Right. That's how minor that is from that perspective. You won't even remember it in a year, and you think it's terrible right now. That's been huge for me, that time perspective that you and Joshua talk about, the idea of perspective. Like a problem now, in a year from now, a month from now, it won't even seem like a problem. And to remember that and be aware of that.
The reason that is because it never was a problem.
Right.
It was just from your
Perception.
perspective, you thought it was going to lead to something else that never came, you know?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens now when you have something that triggers you? Do you realize you're looking at it from a limited perspective and then you change your perspective?
Yeah, you know, I ask myself, I mean, that's generally what I do, but I ask myself, well, what's going on? What am I, you know, I mean, I use my training and we have a series of questions that we look at, you know, when have I experienced this before? What does this remind me of? Right. Yeah. And then, my mom was needy and I perceive my mom to be needy and manipulative. So then I go, I got some work to do on my mom, and I got some memories to change, and how I perceive my mom. I always take it as it's my responsibility. I have these judgments, I have these perceptions, and I have these beliefs, limiting beliefs. So it is limiting beliefs.
And so do these things.
And then once I change those memories and things like that with my mom and my beliefs about my mom and different memories, then I don't get triggered because I don't have that. It's like it's having a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what about, of these limiting beliefs, when you're tapping, what percentage of them come from childhood?
Shit. Almost all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many of them come from this feeling of unworthiness? Seems like when you get down to it,
if you get down to it,
is the root.
I don't know. I mean, I don't, let me think. I need to think about that more because I haven't pinpointed it that way. I look at it as certain experiences that shaped and certain programming that shaped how I am, my beliefs and my perceptions.
But that programming led everyone on this trajectory that they're on. And it was all part of the course, you know.
Sure.
It's like I love listening to Joe Rogan's show and talking about comedians. The worst experience you can ever have is bombing on stage.
Right.
And if you're going to stick, you know, most comedians quit, right? The vast majority, 99% of them. But if you're going to stick with it, you're going to have to take a look at everything about yourself. Right. And the desires that are birthed out of that negative emotion lead to brilliant comedy, you know, lead to success eventually.
I agree. You know, we don't wish our past away. We don't wish traumas or whatever away. Like we don't wish it never happened. We just kind of go back and make peace with it and and change it to now what do I want? That was cool for what it was. Now what do I want? Right.
I've experienced this enough before.
Yeah.
I've had enough experience with that. Now what do I want to experience?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, what people do is they tend to use those events of their youth as excuses why they can't live the life they want to live now.
Totally. It's regret, it's blame.
Right. If I had this parents, I would have been this. If this didn't happen to me, you know, they use their imagination saying, if that didn't happen, then my life would have been better. Yes. Or if that did happen, my life would have been better. Right.
Absolutely.
Which now you're just using your imagination in a unempowering way.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. What I do with them, a lot of my clients is we'll anything that has happened to you, we say, what's the gift? Where's the gift? Yeah. And when we're tapping out the hurt and the regret and the anger, whatever's there, then we kind of lead them to the gift. Yeah. And then, but they're not able to see the gift until they tap out the other shit that's fogging it all. Yeah. And then once they, oh yeah. And oh my God, it's so awesome because I see it all the time. Once we tap down the hurt and the the part that bothers them and the anger, then the fog clears and they're able to see the gifts and they're able to see, oh, my mom wasn't that bad. Oh, I do remember her doing nice things for me. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Things like that.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just interesting how that just kind of keeps you stuck.
Yeah. I have this belief about my mother. She was absolutely, totally controlling.
Right.
And I have these events in my childhood that I would always use as a crutch. Like one of them was, I'm 5 or 6 years old. We walked to the grocery store, which is maybe, I don't know, I can't tell, but maybe it was a mile away or half a mile away. And I get lost. And I got lost all the time when I was a kid, all the time in stores.
You did?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
So I go find a manager, and I'm hanging out with him in the office, and he's calling my mom. She never comes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go, okay, well, I just guess I'll go home now. And so I'm 5 years old. He goes, okay, go home. This is Vancouver.
Right.
And so I walk home. I don't really know which way home is, but I walk in the right direction. And then I see her up ahead walking with my little brother in a cart, you know. Uh-huh. So I got to run up to them. She's walking home. Who would do that?
Oh, man. Yeah.
I'm using this as my excuse that I'm not loved and I'm on my own in the world, right?
Yeah.
I was watching a great documentary about this amazing chef who's super famous, and I can't remember his name now. And he had a story when he was a kid where they're on vacation and they're in some island, and he wanders off down the beach and meets this fisherman who just caught a big fish, and he's just hanging out with this guy, and the fisherman shows him how to cut open the barracuda, and then they cook it, and he got some stuff to put in the fish, and they eat dinner, and then it's dark, and then he just leaves and goes back to the hotel, and his parents are in this party, didn't even know he was gone. Mm-hmm. And then they're off in some trip. They're a wealthy family. They're off in some other trip, and they're living in this hotel for months and months. And he walks down to lunch one day, and the parents are there, and they're like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" He goes like, "How come you're not in school?" It's like, none of the parents remember to enroll him in school.
Oh, man. My.
So it's like, I had those experiences. And then you can use those experiences to say, I had a terrible childhood. But on the other hand, my mother used to make these phenomenal, extravagant, awesome birthday parties for us. Yeah. And all our friends would come over. We'd have these treasure hunts, and the presents were great, and the games were great. You know, these are certain things that she was amazing at.
Right.
Yeah. And you always like to pay attention to the things that you thought were bad.
Exactly. I was going to say, it's what you focus on.
Yeah.
So how did you get over that? A lot of these things with your mom and things like that.
I had this idea of who I was from a young age, right? You know, and so I didn't take anything. I mean, I was very sensitive.
Oh, you were sensitive.
Yeah, everyone who's in this Joshua community is sensitive.
Okay.
You only get here by being sensitive. So I was extremely sensitive, but I sort of knew that I could handle myself. You know? So I had and I think that probably led to a lot of confidence. Anyway, this thing that happened.
Yeah.
Didn't turn out bad. Getting lost in a store dozens of times, it all worked out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that interesting how you could have let's say a twin brother who can go through those very same experiences and just really have it really affect their lives?
Well, my brother's 2 years younger than me, and it really affected his life. I mean, when my mother and father were divorced, my mother left to go to New York, and we stayed with my dad. And I was thrilled. I was 13 years old because she was very controlling, and I had a lot of freedom. He was not, you know.
Yeah.
He was, his mom was leaving, and so he had terrible, not terrible. He had a strained relationship with both of them his entire life.
Interesting.
And they had major problems, and I was always the one that, was okay with everything. Yeah. And to me, everything worked out perfectly. It worked out brilliantly. I wouldn't want to change a thing. So, but I went to high school, and I'm in 12th grade. My dad got a job in Connecticut. We're in Boca Raton. So he's let us stay in the condo and got us a roommate, a young guy that he worked with. So this guy's in his 20s or something. And so that guy's got the master bedroom, super nice guy. He's sort of watching over us, and he's paying us rent weekly. So we have an allowance, but otherwise we're quite free. I'm in senior year, and my brother's in 11th grade. My mother's in New York at the time. So high school graduation comes along, and none of them come down to see it. I'm the this is a huge high school.
Yeah.
And there might be 500 kids in a graduating class, gigantic, in a arena, like a basketball arena, where I mean, like where they have concerts and stuff, slowly sold out. All these parents and family are there. I'm literally the only person without parents there.
Oh man!
You know? And then I graduated college, the same thing. First person in my family to graduate college. No one comes to show up for that.
So how did that affect you? How did you feel then?
At the time, it didn't bother me. Only looking. Oh, I was with all my friends. It was great. Their parents were my friends, you know.
Wow.
But I wanted to live, and you know, he could have forced me to go to Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I would have been at 12th grade in a new school rather than allowing me to stay there. You know, so the benefit of being able to be free in 12th grade was so much better than this thing. And I could only use that as an excuse why I'm not loved, right? If you loved me, you would have done that. Well, that carries on to a relationship, you know?
Sure.
You now dating someone and you don't open the door for them and they say to you, if you loved me, you would have done this. Well, you just have to do everything then. Think 50 steps ahead.
Right.
No, everything works out as it's supposed to work out.
Yeah.
And you're prepared for everything that comes to you. So I was prepared. It didn't bother me at the time. Only looking back, could I use it as an excuse to have resentment.
Right.
But in actuality, it was fine. It was one night, big deal.
So that kind of, that speaks to just the way your thought process. You didn't sit there and get in your mind and look at and compare yourself to other people and go, wow, everyone's parents are. You could have let that really affect you and just get upset. No one's there for me, and you just saw the benefit of, no, I'm happy. I have my freedom. I'm here. I'm having fun with my friends. So you're kind of focusing on what you want, and you know, and not what you don't want.
Right.
Back then.
And I'm not using. I mean, I would tell that story to people just to get like sympathy, you know.
Oh, right.
But that's all that was, right? And that's a limitation.
Yeah.
You know, having this belief system that you weren't loved when absolutely you were loved, right? As best they could love you.
The best they could.
And you say you weren't loved, and then you have to say, well, if I wasn't loved, that means I'm flawed in some way. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's because of this flaw that I wasn't loved. So I'm damaged goods. That's why I wasn't loved. Then that's where unworthiness comes from and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. It could be a whole thing. I'm not loved. So like, like you can be mad at God for that, or the universe. Like, it's not fair what, you know, you feel like a little bit of a curse on you.
Yeah. But I don't know for sure, but I assume that everyone has to come back to say, I'm flawed. The reason I'm not loved is because I'm not good enough. In this society anyway, because we're all taught to be good all the time.
And then that's how you live your life on that basis of I'm not good enough.
And then you try to improve yourself, but you were never flawed in the first place.
Right.
It wasn't you. It was what they were going through.
So you get the nice car, you get the nice house to impress people, to prove that you're not flawed. You get the degrees.
Right. And then you still feel flawed. Right. And then you want to say, okay, well, I got to do something more. I got to do something more. I got to do something more. I got to keep going. Or you start drinking or whatever it is, you know.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. But, you know, all of us have that in our lives. And those of us who are drawn to this information have done so because of experiences like that.
Sure.
Because that's created the trajectory, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than here.
Yes.
I would not want to be living my old fake life trying to prove I'm worthy, even though it looked great from the outside. You know, this is the thing. Success is never measured by this idea of what Western society thinks is good and successful. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how many friends you have, how much time you have, how much good health you have. None of that matters unless you feel good. Yeah. So the whole thing is about feeling good. Right. Because that's all we're doing anyway, is feeling something.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you on that.
One of the women in the boot camp sent me this email and said she had this inspiration while walking her dog is to have a conversation with an intelligent skeptic. And her husband is this intelligent skeptic. He's a lawyer. And so we're going to have a podcast with a skeptic tomorrow, me and him.
You're going to have the whole time you're going to be with him. And so he's going to question everything.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Shit. Wow.
And you know what the beginning thing is that I'm going to say is I don't want you to believe any of this. I don't care if you do or not. Right?
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to have a debate with someone who does not care if you get what I'm saying.
That's right.
Yeah. If you adopt my beliefs or not, I don't care.
Because then all of a sudden, then you kind of disarm them that way.
Totally. Yeah. I don't want you to believe it. And I'm going to say everything you think is right from your perspective.
Yeah.
Which is true. Yeah.
Well, to think about how we're the same age. And so the thing about a lot, what you were describing as far as your high school and is similar to my experience as far as my dad and my parents coming to like my games and my musical performances. They didn't really, right? And being able to walk around and getting lost. And I had a similar experience with my mom. We went shoe shopping and then she left me. So, but you compare that to parents now who are kind of
helicopter
and so much in their kids. And so talking about gifts of our past, there's gifts in both, right?
Yeah.
But the gifts of independence and learning that, we can be reliant on ourselves.
Yes. Well, here's the thing, is that in order to expand and to see ourselves from a new perspective, we have to go through obstacles and manifestation events.
Right.
And our parents couldn't control us enough that we wouldn't, because they didn't have access to us most of the day.
Right.
And when my parents got divorced, I was literally on my own from the time I rode my bike to school till maybe if my dad came home for dinner, or if he went out on a date, maybe I'd see him the next day. So literally that whole time.
Yeah.
And so I was having manifestation events and overcoming obstacles and doing these things. And he was unable to change that.
Right.
But my friends' parents, my friends who are parents now, literally go out of their way to iron out any possible manifestation event.
Yeah.
The kid cannot, if there's any problem at all, the parents solve it for them.
Right.
Even Tracy with her kids, it's like, if they have a little problem, you can't just say, deal with it, which is what my father would have said.
Right.
You don't have money for this thing you want to go to?
Get a job.
Don't go. Get a job, right? Deal with it. Car broke down, deal with it. You got a ticket, deal with it.
Right.
They were not solving any problems because those issues that we were facing, we needed to face them to grow and become who we are. And so I don't know, and the kids are fine. They're doing great, but they're going to have to go, and discover these things. And so they're not doing it when they're, kids. Younger, they're going to be doing it when they're in their 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life will catch up and it'll come one way or another.
Yeah. But seem like they're better prepared for it because they don't care about the things we cared about. Like these kids that I know who are now becoming 16, 17, they don't care about getting a license. My niece has a kid, married, and is got to be in her late 20s, doesn't have a license.
You mean a driver's license?
Yeah. She
really?
Doesn't drive, doesn't have a car, doesn't care. Right? And all these kids are like, I'll get a license whenever. And me, I was there at 15 and a half, exactly that day,
right.
I wait to get my permit. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
The other thing you can compare is the idea of going to a job. So for you and I we're entrepreneurs and we've done our own thing for many, many years, but you've had jobs, right, in the past?
Yeah, when I was 15.
Okay, 15.
15 and 16.
And that's it? Okay.
And then I was a waiter. I never considered that a job because I could be a waiter anywhere. And I was really working for the customer for the tips.
Okay.
It didn't matter what the restaurant was. Yeah.
Yeah. So our generation we have the idea of loyalty to a company, paying your dues, sticking it out, maybe not enjoying a job that much or in the beginning, but you just kind of stick it out and you kind of suffer along in a way. And then today's generation, to generalize, is if they don't like it, they're out of there, or
Absolutely.
they don't put up with a lot of shit.
They shouldn't.
And
I think that is
our
so
generation
much
has
healthier.
yeah, I think it's so much too. But we have our generation has a lot to say about that. Oh, they're spoiled. The millennials, they don't know anything. They, So
Every generation said that about the next generation.
Every generation,
yeah.
Yeah.
And really, if you look prior to the 50s, people, no matter where they lived in the world, didn't have a lot of control. They weren't making a lot of money. They felt so fortunate to have any job.
Yeah.
And to have anything. And so now in the 50s, they're buying houses in the suburbs and cars, and they're feeling really good because they're doing better than the parents who went through the Depression. And then the 70s, there's a big generation gap there, because the kids in the 70s could see how that lifestyle of the 50s was bullshit. And then it's getting more and more and more so, seeing that the old, now that we have so much control, people are realizing that control is illusion of control. It doesn't work. You can't control anything. And so to try to control more and more and more. I lived in Palm Beach, the wealthiest town in the world, and everyone is sour and miserable. And everyone is quiet and judgy, and and there's all these cliques. And I was doing a lot of real estate and appraisals in these houses. You wouldn't believe how many shut-ins there are. They live in one bedroom. They may have a staff. They don't go out of the bedroom. They just live in that room. And you couldn't even go in that room, and I would say, I have to go in the room, I'm appraising it. And they're like, well, you can look in, it was like this big ordeal to look into a room. So it's, the more you try and control things out of your reality so you don't feel negative emotion. Mm-hmm. I remember we were on one of those cruises, you and I, and we're walking down from the cruise ship, and there's this beautiful yacht there. And someone says, the next Joshua cruise is going to be on a yacht. Mm-hmm. And I said, the only reason they're on that yacht is to get away from people like us. They're trying to control us out of that, because that boat that we're on is so much more fun than that yacht. We're doing karaoke, we're playing poker, we're dancing. It was great. Mingling with people.
So fun.
Yep. Okay, so how about when we were on the Law of Attraction cruise, and we get to that private island?
Right.
And so we're on this big ferry. It takes 45 minutes to get there with a ton of other people. Mm-hmm. But Juan buys us this private part of this upscale thing. Mm-hmm. And so we have our wristbands. So we arrive there, and we have to get off first. So we walk in front of everyone. They have a truck that picks us up. We get in the back of the truck, and we go to the other side of the island, and we have a house, and we have a waiter and bartender and all kinds of people there taking care of us, right? Right. And so we're having a good time. And then when they say, okay, it's time to go back, it's summer in Mexico, it's hot. Mm-hmm. We get back on this truck, and there's the boat, and everyone's sitting in that boat waiting for us. Oh. And they're saying, about time you showed up and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And the only place that's on the boat was the front two benches up there. So we walk through the whole thing, benches, and then you take over the radio. They had a boombox there, and we just start singing, and in 10 seconds, this entire boat is having fun. They're all so sour, and we just brought our energy of love in there. Yep. And it's funny how we could have said, oh, these people don't like us because we held them up and all this stuff. No, it was what it was. We were going to be fun people, and we infected the whole group.
Yeah, that's right. And remember how much we didn't go see the other, because you were going to do a performance, and we had other, well, you want to explain the Law of Attraction cruise? Like, they had different people presenting.
Yeah, so we went to the first one, right? And it was we just weren't a vibrational match to it, because it wasn't up to the level that we want.
Right.
that we're used to. And so we left, and then we decided not to go. We wanted to have more fun rather than sit in some seminar.
We want to have fun.
And we just wanted to have fun. And we felt a little tinge. We all felt a tinge of guilt by not going to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like, hold on. Why would we do something that we're not inspired to do?
Right.
Just out of courtesy? Well, that's trying to get other people to think we're good.
Right.
And it's never going to lead to the outcome that's good for anyone, right? Because they'll just sit there seeing us wiggle, 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 right? And then you see that none of them showed up for us, nor did, and that was fine, but all the other people did, and we had a great time. And so if you could take that perspective, like, oh my God, we have to go there, we have to support them. Yeah. And then we would just wait, ruin that fun time that we had. We were inspired to do what we did, and we weren't going to feel guilty about it. We had a great time. And then when they didn't show up for us, that was fine.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. It didn't bother us. We didn't think anything was bad about them,
Right.
So it's just this perspective that you take when you're aligned with what is truly important and who you really are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Doing what feels right and not doing what you think you should.
Right.
Not doing what you think you should. And
Take
then
the word should
able to process. Yeah. And being able to process that, because I had to process that a little bit. I actually asked, that was my question to David Strickle. I went up there and I talked about that. I don't know if you remember, and the answer was pretty much what you're saying.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do something you don't want to do?
Right.
But we grew up that way.
Well, we were programmed, and we just have to deprogram ourselves. And it's just programming. Society wants you to fit into a box, but you're unique and you don't have a box to fit into. You need to be who you truly are, and you're always being drawn in that direction. Yeah. And that's what resistance is. Resistance is to being who you truly are and trying to be something you're not. Joshua has an article called "All of Your Problems Stem from You Trying to Be Good." This idea of being good, that's just control. You're just trying to manipulate other people into liking you by behaving in a way that you think they will like, rather than what you're inspired to do, right? So if you could say, and the irony is, who you're being in getting them to like you is not who you are. You're being fake anyway. So they don't like you. They like this version of you that you're putting out there.
That's right.
And counterintuitively, when you become more authentic, people that you knew in the past might have fear about that and have their own manifestation event, but others will be drawn to you in this authentic representation of who you are.
Yes.
So, when I say I am a preeminent spiritual leader and teacher, I say that so I can get comfortable with who I truly am, right?
Yeah.
And adding the word preeminent in there is that next step. Now, other people might think that that's cocky or self-aggrandizing. And it's just for me so that I can be as clear on this exploration as I can. And so those people in my past might say, who does he think he is now? Right.
Right.
And all I do is I think that I'm on a journey of exploration and I'm trying to discover who I really am. And I'm not saying that this is I'm a preeminent chef,
Right.
And if I was on this journey to discover my talents and attributes as a chef, other people may say, you suck as a chef. And other people may say, you suck as a spiritual leader. But I have to allow myself the leeway to go to the heights that are possible, instead of holding myself back by worrying about what other people would think,
Yeah.
I have to allow, because I want to experience as much as I can out of this life. And I am done limiting myself by these ridiculous limiting beliefs.
I really like that. It's the idea of being what you want now.
Well, okay, so my exploration of being a preeminent spiritual leader and teacher is only this call. That's all I care about is this call right now.
In the moment.
I'm not out there trying to book people and trying to be on other shows and trying to up numbers or any of that stuff. I am simply engaged in the highest level conversation I can think of because it's fun. That's the only reason. I'm not doing one thing that's not fun or exciting or interesting. Not one thing. My previous life, it was mostly stuff that I didn't want to do. And I had my own business, so I could do whatever I want to do, you know, and I had enough money, so I could do whatever I wanted to do. But generally speaking, I was doing things just to get more successful and more worthy. And it was all about getting more and more and more. Now it's all about what's a fun idea? Oh, let's talk to Mark Shihadeh. That's the funnest thing I can think of doing right now.
Yeah.
And so we scheduled this and we're having this conversation. And I don't give a fuck if anyone listens to it or not.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care. I've lost podcasts. You know, someone who's a professional podcaster is not losing podcasts. I have 50 podcasts I can't find, you know. We've had ones that weren't recorded before, and it was just as fun, you know. I have no attachment to where this goes. I'm just doing it for the fun.
Well, it's actually how it went down is a testament to what you're saying, because I texted you something funny and you go, hey, what are you doing? You want to do a thing, but tomorrow, you know? I mean, what did I text you yesterday or the day before?
Yeah.
And here we are.
You texted me yesterday. That was a funny conversation too.
We can't really talk about that.
No.
Every time I think about that, I crack.
But that's what inspiration isn't always just coming from inside you. I mean, it's coming a lot, but it's always coming from these, you know, like this idea to have a podcast with a skeptic that we'll do tomorrow. You just calling and me getting, oh, let's just get on with Mark, you know. That's what this life is like. That's what a blended being is. Have you heard that term from Joshua before? Mm-hmm. It's like you're so tuned in to who you are that you're receiving inspiration all day long and you're just doing whatever you're inspired to do in the moment.
Yeah.
You know? And not being attached to any idea of it. Yeah.
So blended being is your physical self blended with your inner self.
Right. Exactly.
And trying to live, I guess it's living more from, you have to be, we're always physical, but having the inner self inform and to guide us.
Well, we're always receiving inspiration.
Right.
But generally, our belief system is so rigid that the ideas that come to us, we dismiss before we even recognize them, you know. Or if an idea comes, call your mom. Fear pops up and says, oh, I have to get on the phone with her. She's going to talk about something I want to talk about or bring up this or ask for this. Or she's going to be busy. All that little tiny fear. And you say, I'll just call her next week, right?
Yeah.
But the timing of that inspiration is meaningful because our inner self only acts in the moment, you know?
Right.
And so if you do this, you will find that miracles happen when you act on this inspiration. I could have said, oh, you know, I've done so many podcasts this week and Mark is probably busy, you know, and whatever. But no, I pushed past whatever the fear was and text you back and here we are. And we're on an hour already and it seemed like 10 minutes.
Oh, we're just flowing.
Yeah.
And it was effortless.
Why are we flowing and why is it effortless? Because we have no attachment to the outcome. Mm-hmm. We don't care what each other thinks of each other because we are friends. So we have this belief that I think you're great and you think I'm great, right?
Yeah.
And so you have no need to make me think better of you because I already think great of you.
Right.
So I am not attached to any outcome. So there's no wobble in this conversation. And so we're having this spiritual connection right now where you're connected to your inner self, I'm connected to my inner self, and words are just flowing. They're flowing from our inner selves, right?
Yes.
And there's no gaps in the conversation. There's no things we have to think about to keep it going.
Yeah.
We could go for 3 hours, I bet, you know, this sort of thing.
Now it's interesting because I have a little bit of, not a lot, but a little bit of fear of the gaps. What if we just stop and then what are we going to talk about next type of thing? I don't know if you're even conscious of that, but I'm a little bit conscious of that.
Yeah, no, you know, this conversation doesn't have any gaps,
Right. It
But
doesn't.
even if there was, gaps are good in conversation. We're just,
I know,
we
man.
just have this perception that gaps are awkward,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And I
Especially
have
on a
that
podcast.
with conversation or like being up on stage, and I've worked on that. Like you have, so this idea you're on stage and you think that if you pause, you think that it's so long and everyone's looking at you and you're messing up. Well, the idea, like what you just said, a pause is good, actually. Take a breath, you take a moment, you regroup yourself if you need to. And
what
gaps are
happens?
good. Yeah.
And you capture the audience's attention.
That's right.
Because it's not a normal thing, right?
Yeah.
So now they're like, oh, what's happening here, right? And they're tuned back in. And generally speaking, audiences are on your side, so they want you to do well. So then when you come in with something else, you're going, oh, he's good, he's back, you know, and they feel relief, and that feels good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But let's say it again. What you're saying is really important, I think. And let's say it again. You're talking about the reason why we're flowing and we're having fun is because of we don't have attachments.
Right.
About how it's going to go, what each other are thinking. And so you can put that idea to anything, the non-attachment to an outcome.
To outcome, right.
The non-attachment to an outcome.
So imagine this. Here's how, in the old approach to life, people would do a podcast, right? They would prepare for it.
Right.
So that they would have topics to talk about.
Right.
And they would need to stay on these topics, right?
Right.
And they would keep it to a certain amount of time because that's what the audience likes. They make up in their heads, right?
Right.
And they have to always be engaging and exciting and interesting so that the audience will stay listening longer. So they have more minutes of listening. Mm-hmm. And that they have to say stuff so the audience will tell their friends about it and talk about it. So they have to say wild things or whatever, right? Yeah. So they have to do all these things in order to create this huge audience.
Right.
And in the midst of that, it's completely inauthentic.
It really is.
Right? So you and I are just friends talking about law of attraction because it's fun. Mm-hmm. We have no preparation. We're not editing any of this. We could care less if anyone listens to it. We're only doing it for our fun. And then we'll take 10 seconds to put it online. That's it, right? And then other people will like it or not like it, and who cares?
And we're not even trying to talk about the law of attraction. We're just kind of flowing and talking.
Well, what we are is examples of alignment. And that's the greatest teaching that anyone can do. You know, we're talking about how we live our lives and what we believe and how it works for us. And then people can make up their own minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when's the last time you had a manifestational event?
Okay. So I had one.
I always think of Tracy laughing at me.
Yeah. I had one a little while ago. God, they're so few and far between now, but I definitely had one the first night of the boot camp when Dylan came in and brought a bong into this. For all he knows is this really important business situation. Yep. I'm having one now as my puppy wants to get out of the room and he can't get out because he's stuck in here. You're a little puppy. Yeah. So I got really upset, but I just stayed up there and luckily Tracy calmed me down. She didn't get upset at all. And so she talked me through it. And in 15 minutes, it was over, you know.
Right.
But it felt so intense. That's okay, puppy. Hold on 1 second. So that is not a manifestation event with the dog.
We got to edit that out for sure. We can't have that.
No, it's not a minute. I don't care. It's not a man. See, if you don't care, you can't have a manifestation event. You can only have a manifestation event when you care. Yeah. You know, so anyway, what happens is when you start to feel good,
right,
then your negative emotion, you really notice it. And so little things happen and you go, oh my God, why do I feel so bad? That's the side effect of feeling good. When you do dip into that lower emotional state of being, it feels so terrible. But that's what you want. You don't want to
what
walk
you want.
around being numb.
That's right.
You know, you don't want, that's what I think Prozac does, is makes people numb
Oh,
to their
Lord.
emotions. You don't
Yeah.
want that. You want to feel it intensely, like you did when you were a baby.
And you know, what we're talking about, how like doing what you're supposed to do and doing what you're expected to, and kind of living a life for other people. What you start to do, that is being numb, because you start to lose the idea of your sensitivity to not feeling good, because you're used to not feeling good.
Right.
You're used to not doing what you want to do, and you slowly sell yourself short in life.
Yes.
And what you're saying is, when something bad happens, you want to feel it hard, so that
you get the message.
Yeah, you get the message, and that means you're not used to feeling bad. The
Right.
reason why people don't feel it is because they're just kind of used to this
Exactly.
over and over again, and then they kind of live with it.
Yes. They live with it, and then they try to avoid it in the future, and they try to control situations so they don't feel it, you know, and that just doesn't work. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Like, again, I bring this up as far as that conversation I had with Joshua, or the letter I wrote, as far as my business and trying to bring in business, you know, and I was doing Facebook ads. I don't know. How long ago was that? An hour, a year and a half, or
at least, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so basically what Joshua said is it fun doing these videos? Like, not really. Don't do it. Don't do it if it's not fun. And so the idea of being an entrepreneur and not doing anything to bring in business, right? And I stopped doing anything to bring in business. And I've had the most fun. I've had the most, and it's been a fun journey. And I'm not saying everything flowed in, but the pace has been perfect.
Yeah.
But you can always feel when somebody is trying to, like sell you a car.
Yeah.
Go to a car dealership, and you don't want to buy a car from that guy who wants to sell you a car. You want to buy a car from the guy who just gave you information, doesn't give a shit.
Right.
And so that's kind of a way to live our lives, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you want to buy a car from a guy who's absolutely passionate about cars.
Yeah.
And he's only there because he loves cars so much.
And he wants to tell you about it because,
Right.
Yeah.
It's like when people call, I have these conversations about the boot camp, and those are one of the funnest things I do, is these one-on-one conversations, pretty much like we're having here. And the people tell me about their lives, and I explain what the boot camp is and everything, but it's that spiritual connection. I'm absolutely focused on that person. They're connected to their inner self. Their inner self's connected to my inner self. And the words just flow, and they're all different. There's no preparation for it. I have no script. I have no checkpoint of things to talk about. Everyone's totally different. I usually miss a whole bunch of stuff, that I think I should say, right? Or that someone who is doing this would say. And we just have this amazing conversation. And what they get is the feeling that it's either right for them or not. And I have no attachment. I'm just there for the conversation because I like to talk about it. And whether they join the boot camp or not doesn't affect my abundance. I'm abundant either way. It'll come. I don't need more than I have now. It's all flowing perfectly, right?
Yeah.
And nor do I care what they think about me, because they can't know me. They've listened to me on a podcast or whatever, or seen me on videos, or read a book or something. They have their own opinion of me that they can't even imagine who I truly am. So I don't need that to change what that is. So now I'm not dipping into fear to guide that conversation either, right? I'm just purely connected to source consciousness and to my inner self, where the words are flowing specifically for what is important to them. And I don't even know what that is. I mean, so many times I'll say, tell me about your mother, or tell me about your children, and they go, oh my God, my relationship with my mother is so strained, blah, 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 blah. How would I know that? Or father? It's these weird things, ideas that come up that direct this conversation. Say this, talk about that. It's so effective for living life,
Yes.
when you drop your need for other people to do or be different than they are.
Now, if you had a script and you had attachment and you had a pacing of it, a preconceived pacing of it, you wouldn't have gotten that spontaneous thing about the mom. And
right. Yeah. One day I won't be taking these calls. Some other people will be talking about the boot camp, right?
Right.
And So this year is just me exploring what that's like. And with those calls and with I have a call with each person in the boot camp. There's 3 different calls during the boot camp. So this is a one-on-one call just like this, right? So over the course of the year, I've had about 500 of those calls. And that's great for my exploration of that dynamic. And I really know how that works. But I'll get too busy for that. And in the future, other people will be doing that. And they'll probably get paid for their success, right? If someone joins, they get a commission. And if they don't join, you don't get a commission. And how do we figure out how that works for them? You know, because they will have a different idea of abundance than I have. And I'm sure it's going to come from people who've done the boot camp. So I
was just going to say that.
A different level, right?
Yeah.
But think about anything that you know, that you're doing for a commission, you have to be attached to that commission. Think about anyone who's working for a company, they have to be attached to the goals of the company.
Yeah.
Now, I say that's an ineffective way to do it. They should release all attachment to all goals. And if they were able to do that, they could work in an environment of love rather than fear. Fear of not making the quota, fear of not making a deadline, all that stuff. But if you look at it from a perspective of control as the corporation, all you want are people who are just doing stuff, right? So you want to instill as much fear as you can. If you don't do this, you're fired. You're going to have a review every 30 days. Your raise depends on it, blah, 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 blah. That's a control mechanism based in fear. Imagine if you said, you just come in whenever you want to come in, do whatever you're inspired to do, and leave whenever you want to leave.
Oh, shit.
That goes against every bit of programming. And why is that? Because if you're creating a whole system out of fear, you want to instill that fear in everyone in that system so that they do what you want to do. But now there's companies all over the world, and I was just listening to one of them where they installed a 4-hour workday, and they come in at 8 and they leave at 12:30 or something, right? Unless you want to come in at 8:30, you can do that, right? So they're whatever you want to do, and then they're just like, but you can't have your cell phone and you can't do social media. And what they found is they were exactly as productive as before, because what everyone else was doing was going on Facebook and texting and talking on the phone anyway. They weren't really working 8 hours. They were there 8 hours, but they were only working really 4 hours of productive. And so everyone was way happier and they started living this life outside of work, doing their hobbies and passions. And when they came to work, they were inspired, and so they were acting on all this inspired. So they were tapped into source consciousness.
That's right.
Rather than fear consciousness so all these issues in the workplace disappeared, all these tensions, all these inner conflicts, all that disappeared.
Yeah, you're getting the best version of them.
Yeah.
That way.
That's what you want. If I were to do a business again, I would only hire happy people, and I would create this dynamic of love. That's why they say, really, in a work environment, if everyone's working towards a common goal that's bigger than them, then that inspires them because the mission statement. Their creative juices flow. Yeah. So
interesting.
All of this stuff we're talking about is counterintuitive.
Right.
But when you test it, it always works. Like Portugal decriminalized all drugs, heroin, meth, everything. And they've shown that there's a puppy. They've shown the results of this has been nothing short of staggeringly successful. Just no one's, the fear is everyone's going to just start doing drugs because now laws don't stop people who are going to do things from doing them. They stop people who aren't going to do things from doing them. That's what Abraham says that all the time. Yeah. And when you do these counterintuitive things like Portugal did, you can realize a war on drugs is only going to create, from your perspective of the warrior, worse conditions.
Yeah.
And the absolute acceptance of people as they are is only going to create love conditions. Word. Drop the mic. All right.
Word.
It's been an hour and a half.
Has
no
it really
one's
been?
listening to us now. Yeah. They've
No.
all, studies show that people only listen for 45 minutes. So for the last half an hour or so, no one's listening. So it's just been you and me anyway. But this was great fun. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Where they can find me. You know what I would do? I do have a podcast, and it's pretty interesting because I haven't released a podcast in so long. But this will be my next podcast.
I'm going to send you this, and you release it as your next podcast.
I'd love that. Yeah, because I haven't been inspired, and I've been busy with other stuff, and that's fine. I didn't pressure myself to, you got to do it once a week, and you got to do it. I didn't do any shoulds.
Right. You got to do it when it's fun.
Yeah. But you can find me the Tap It Out podcast. The Tap It Out podcast. Look that up at anywhere where you listen to your podcasts. It talks about tapping, FasterEFT tapping, and the law of attraction. And also on Facebook. I mean, I do have my website, but I like the Facebook group is a great place, and it's Tap It Out. Yeah. So if you go to Facebook and you search Tap It Out, you'll find my group too.
Yeah, I love my Facebook group. That's fun. Yeah.
Facebook groups are fun. And I don't do any selling in it. I haven't done any. I just post stuff that I like and that's inspiring and that I resonate with. And it's just growing naturally.
Yeah. Have you done Instagram? Do you do Instagram?
I've done it and I have it, but I haven't done Instagram in a while.
Yeah.
How about you?
We're just starting to do it. And it's, because you got to post pictures and stuff from your phone, but all my pictures are on the computer,
Oh, right. Yeah.
All the quotes and things like that. So,
yeah.
But yeah, apparently, Instagram is a great thing. And I like doing Facebook, but even Facebook, it's Friends of Joshua is the Facebook group. And it's easy to post podcasts and things and maybe a quote here and there. And then I'll interact with people who have comments and stuff, but it's not as easy when you're doing so many other things to just get into that. Yeah. Cool. So if you want to learn more about Joshua, it's theteachingsofjoshua.com. There's our other podcast, which is Joshua Live, where you can hear me channel Joshua to a group of people. And of course, the Friends of Joshua Facebook group. The Friends of Facebook Joshua group. The Friends of Joshua Facebook group. Otherwise, that's it. Thank you, Mark, for being here. You're a lovely human being and a master leader and teacher. You're a preeminent spiritual leader and teacher. And you are, whether you know it or not, you're moving in that direction of self-discovery, discovering who your authentic self is. That's one who is not limited by fear. So don't be afraid to go to cocktail parties. When someone asks you what you do, you say, I am a preeminent spiritual leader and teacher.
And then I'll be alone in the corner after that.
No, they'll say, tell me more.
Who does that guy think he is?
No, you got the secret. You had the secret to life. You cannot hold the secret to life. You've got to share that secret.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do it in I do it in a cool way. I start talking about the tapping. I light up and I talk about the law of attraction. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're interested in it and you only attract people who are interested in it as long as you let go of your fear of what they might think of you.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm working
because those people who come to see you wherever you happen to be, it had nothing to do with law of attraction. They never heard of the words before. You were here. That was like in December last year when you were here? Yeah. About a year ago, right? Yeah, it was chilly. It was December.
It started to get cold, yeah.
You were here for the home tour, which is the early part of December.
Would you go?
That was just the home tour. Remember?
Oh, the home tour, right.
Yeah. And so we went bowling, and then on the way home, we stopped in the wine bar, and that's where we met Chris and Andrea.
Right.
And they never heard the words law of attraction before. And I spent the entire night and then the next day had them over for dinner talking about the law of attraction. They were fascinated.
Mm-hmm.
Here they are in a little town in Newton, North Carolina. Never heard of law of attraction. I was inspired to go in if we were headed home and I just swung in there and you guys like, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. I'm inspired to go in here. So we'll go in there. Everyone's there. And then Andrea and Chris joined the boot camp and had never heard of Joshua, had no idea what we were doing here in this house.
Yeah.
They just liked our energy and
Yeah.
how we were talking about things, and they wanted to know more.
Yeah. So there's a, and I know we're ending this here, but there's an idea of trust and faith, like of not trying, like, in other words, you can have fun, be light, be easy, and have fun, and then have faith and trust that everything you want is going to flow towards you and it's going to work out.
Yeah.
That little faith, because that control thing is about, oh, but if I have fun, I'm not getting what I need to get.
Yeah. Well, the control thing is I have to do it myself. And the faith thing is realizing the universe is way more powerful than you are.
Perfect.
As far as manifestation goes. And the allowing part, the step 3 part, is maintaining alignment. That's the only job you have. Maintain alignment. And you do that by being easy, light, and having fun. Elf.
Yeah.
Right?
Word.
Word.
That's it.
Good way to end. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Gary.
Catch you later. We gotta meet up in physicality soon.
Absolutely. That was fun. Thanks.
Okay. Bye now. Bye, everyone.
See ya.